Jesus dies on the cross. John 19:30. Jesus said, "It is finished." With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. This was the moment I dreaded. Starting after dinner, a long day of work behind me, I just felt completely inadequate. But I knew I had to do it. I finished the painting in less than an hour. I truly believe I merely held the brush, and I guess I held out my hands. I knew this work would have to depict what we did to him, our own sinful nature, and I wanted that to play a painfully large role. In doing that, it would also show the surrender of Jesus, the sacrifice, the humility and dignity with which he took this inevitable journey, just for us, for you and me. I started with the cross. I knew it would be so hard to paint Jesus' face that I couldn't possibly do it justice. So I was going to postpone it as long as I could. The painting is very dark. As you've seen, progressively the paintings have gotten darker and darker because now it's mere moments from his death. Not just death, but a journey to hell. Because he was taking on the sins of all of us. God cannot look upon sin. So he was utterly and completely alone. His shoulders are the only thing that shows a strong bit of light on him. And I wanted that to show that he carries the burden for us right up until the end. His muscles are protruding, his collarbone is really hollow, and his chest is devoid of any air. It's almost empty. Because he's experiencing with what happens is the muscles really protrude when there are these terrible muscle cramps that happen when you are in this position. And he's asphyxiating. His lips are swollen and his eyes are hollow from extreme dehydration. All this is medically correct, but I didn't know this until after I had painted it. I sat down for a minute thinking, before I went on, that I should read the last little chapter of this book that talks all about the physical suffering that he experienced. And I wanted to be sure I was, not being disrespectful or mocking him in any way. This was such a holy experience. I wanted it to be right. So after I'd finished reading that chapter, it astonished me that all the physical trauma that was happening to him, I had already painted. So when my fingers went to the mouth area, I was painting here, you can see the mouth. I had no idea that his lips looked so swollen. I didn't know that I'd painted his tongue all swollen, and if you look carefully, the inside of his cheek. I didn't see that until I lifted my hand off the wood. Naturally, his tongue was swollen, his lips were swollen. His tongue was probably taking up most of his mouth by now, stopping him from being able to breathe. I could not paint the agony of his dying in full, clear detail. Therefore, I chose to paint his face mostly in shadow, in the awful shadow of death. The privacy of death was taken away from him. But I chose to leave some of his dignity in the shadow. The small panel shows the swirling chasm of death as the light leaves. The final light of his life leaves. Yet one more drop of blood leaks out of his sacrifice. It is his final breath. And with that little bit of breath that he had left, he was able to breathe. It is finished. I think God chose me this way to personally speak about bringing his message of hope, the offer of his free gift of eternal life to others. I hope you will hear God speak to you as you meditate deeply and personally on his story, his sacrifice, and his hope for you